We continue now at the top of Daf Yomi Gemara from Meseches Yoma. This is Yoma Daf 10a. Rabbi Yochanan is in the middle of giving his reason why the Shechina was less in the times of the second Beis HaMikdash than the first Beis HaMikdash. He learns it from the pasuk of Yaf Elokim liyefes. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will enlarge for Yefes, v'yishkon b'yalei Shem, but he will dwell in the tents of Shem. Means to say, Afagav the Yaf Elokim liyefes. Even though HaKadosh Baruch Hu will enlarge the portion of Yefes, Ein HaShechina Shora Elo b'yalei Shem. The Shechina only rests in the tent of Shem, and Rashi over here explains, it is true that the Persians merited to build the second Beis HaMikdash. However, the Shechina only rests in the Mikdash Rishon, which Shlomo HaMelech built, and of course Shlomo HaMelech comes from the children of Shem. And the Gemara continues, now how do we know that the Persians come from Yefes? Like the pasuk says, B'nei Yefes, the children of Yefes, Gomer, Umagog, Umadai, V'yavon, V'suval, Umeshech, V'sira. So the Gemara now wants to know, what are all these nations? So Gomer zu Germania. Some people have, the Gra has Germania. Gomer refers to the country of Germania. Magog zu Candia. Magog is Candia. Madai zu Macedonia. Madai is Macedonia, which is Macedonia. Yavon kimashmo. Yavon refers to Greece, as it sounds like. Tuval ze Beis Unaiki. Tuval refers to the nation of Beis Unaiki. Meshech zu Musia. Meshech is Musia. Tiras, what is Tiras? Pligiba, Reb Simoi v'Rabbanan. That's a machlokus between Reb Simoi and the Rabbanan. V'amri lo, some say Rabbi Simon v'Rabbanan. It's a machlokus between Rabbi Simon and the Rabbanan. Chad Omar zu Beis Taraiki. One says it refers to Beis Taraiki. V'chad Omar zu Pras. And one opinion is it's Persia. That's where we see that Persia comes from Yefes. Tani Rav Yosef, and Rav Yosef taught Tiras zu Pras. Tiras refers to Pras, refers to Persia. And the Gemara continues quoting more psukim from Parshas Noach in terms of the 70 nations. Savta v'Rama v'Savtecha. Tani Rav Yosef taught Sakistan Giviasa v'Sakistan Beraisa. This refers, talking about Safta and Saftecha, we'll see Rashi refers to Sakistan, the inner one, and Sakistan, the outer one. Rashi over here says, Sakistan Gevaisa v'Sakistan Beraisa, Asafta v'Saftecha Koi. We're going here on Safta and Saftecha in the Pasuk. Sheshman Shava, they have the same name. V'heimachos Mukaf Harim, it's one area that's surrounded by mountains. V'hachitzonim hakefes apnimis, the outer one surrounds the inner one. Urechoka pnimis chutz min hekef chitzon chatzad mea parsi. The outer one is outside of the inner one by 100 parsa. V'hekef hachitzona alpha parsi, and the circumference of the outer one is 1,000 parsi. That's the Gemara says over here. Bein chada lechada, between one and the other, between the outer one and the inner one, mea parsi is 100 parsi. V'kefa alpha parsi, and again the circumference of the outer one is 1,000 parsos. So that's the idea here of Safta and Saftecha. Again refers to Sakistan Giviyasa, the inner one, Sakistan Beraisa, the outer one. And the Gemara continues quoting psukim in Parshas Noach, Vati Reishis Mamlachto Bavel v'Erech v'Achad v'Chalnei. It says the beginning of his kingdom, talking about Nimrod, was Bavel, Erech, Achad, and Kalnei. What are these locations? Bavel Kimashma, Bavel is what it sounds like. Erech ze Orichus, Erech refers to Orichus. V'Echad ze Bischar, Echad is the location called Bischar. Kalnei ze Nofer Ninfei, Kalnei refers to Nofer Ninfei. Pasuk then says also, Parshas Noach, Min ha'oretz ahi yotza Ashur, from that land Asher went out. Interesting Rashi over here. Rashi says, Min ha'oretz ahi yotza shelo lios ba'atzas dor haflaga. Ashur did not want to be part of the Eitzah of the dor haflaga, so he left that land. In any case, the Gemara continues, Tani Rav Yosef taught, Asher is a sea lake. Asher contains, or in that region, is the city of Sea Lake. Vayiven es Ninveh ve'es Rechovos Ir ve'es Kolach. What are those areas? Ninveh kemashmo. Ninveh is what it sounds like. Rechovos Ir zu Pras de Mishon. Rechovos Ir refers to a city called Pras de Mishon. Kolach zu Pras de Vorsif. Kolach refers to Pras de Vorsif. Ve'es Resen bein Ninveh uvein Kolach hi ha'ir hagadola. Then it says there was the city of Resen between Ninveh and Kolach. It is the large city. So Resen ze Aktisfon. Resen refers to the city of Aktisfon. Hi ha'ir hagadola. Now when it says this was the large city, Eini yodea im Ninveh ha'ir hagadola im Resen ha'ir hagadola. Which city is the big city? Is it Ninveh that's the large city, or is it Resen that's the large city? Kishu Omer, when it says in another pasuk, this is a pasuk in Sefer Yona, Yona v'Ninveh haisa ir gadola lelokim malach shloshas yom. It says Ninveh was a large city. Have Omer, so you can assume Ninveh hi ha'ir hagadola, that Ninveh was the large city. The Gemara continues, now brings a pasuk by the Meraglim, v'sham achimon sheishai v'talma yilidei ha'anok. Talks about the giants Achimon, Sheshai, and Talmai, the children of the Anok. So Tana, it was taught as follows. Achimon, what does the word Achimon mean? Miyumon Sheba'achim. It means he was the most skilled of his brothers. Sheshai, what's Sheshai? Shemesim es haaretz kishchisas. He was so large that he created pits in the earth. He made the earth as if it was full of pits. Talmai, what does Talmai mean? Shemesim es haaretz telamim. He made furrows in the earth, like what a plow does to the earth. That's what Talmai did when he walked through the ground. Davar Acher, another explanation in understanding these giants. Achimon bona Anos. Achimon built the city of Anos. Sheshai bona Alush. Sheshai built the city of Alush. Talmai bona Talbush. Talmai built the city of Talbush. Yelidei ha'anok. What does it mean they were Yelidei ha'anok? Shemanikin hachama b'komasan. The sun looked like a necklace around their necks because of their height. That's what it means, anok. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi says, Amar Rebbe, in the name of Rebbe, Asido Romi shetipol biad paras. In the future, Rome will fall in the hands of Pras. Shenamar, like the pasuk says, Lachen shimu atzat Hashem asher yoatz el Edom umachshavos v'asher choshav el yosh v'seimon im lo yischavim tzirei hatzon im lo yasim aleim noam. The idea over here is that Tzirei Hatzon, the youngest of the flocks, they're going to conquer Edom, which is Rome. So we have to understand, why is Tzirei Hatzon a reference to the Persians? So Ma'askif lo Rabba Barula. So Rabba Barula asked, "My mashma dehai Tzirei Hatzon prasu." How do you know that the youngest of the flocks reference in this pasuk is a reference to Pras, is a reference to Persia? And the answer is Dichsiv, like the pasuk says. This is a pasuk in Daniel. Ha'ayil asher ro'isa bal hakronoyim malchei madayu Pras. So it talks about the ayil, which is one of the flocks, the ram, and it says malchei madayu Pras. So you see that Pras, Persia, refers to the young flocks. V'yema Yavan. So the Gemara says, well, why not say that the pasuk again, the original pasuk over here, is in Yirmiyahu? Why not say this original pasuk in Yirmiyahu is talking about Greece? Dichsiv, like the pasuk says, V'atzafir hasoyer melech Yavan, talks about the seir, the goat, and that says melech Yavan. So that also could be one of the tzon. That also could be one of the young flocks. So the Gemara says, Kisalik Rav Chaviva bar Surmiki, when Rav Chaviva bar Surmiki went up to Eretz Yisrael, Amra Kame Dehume Rabbanan. So he said over this whole sugya in the name of the Rabbanan. And he asked this question, how do you know that it refers to Pras? So Amar Le, so he said to him, Mandalo Yoda Prushe Kroi, person who doesn't even know how to explain Sugya, Mosef Tiyuvtal Rebbe, is asking a question against Rebbe. Again, the original statement that Rome would fall in the hands of Pras was made by Rebbe. How could you ask this question? My Tzirei Hatzon, what does it really mean, Tzirei Hatzon? Well, how do we know that means Paras? It really is because of Zutra de Achowi. It's because he's the youngest of his brothers. In other words, the youngest son of Yefes happens to be Pras. The Tani Rav Yosef Tiras is Pras, as Rav Yosef taught Tiras is Pras, and Tiras was the youngest of Yefes' children. So what he's saying is your original pshat of trying to understand the youngest of the flock taking psukim in Daniel, that's not the real source. Really, the Tzirei Hatzon is a reference to Pras, simply because Pras was the youngest, or Tiras was the youngest of Yefes' children. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav bar Brachan, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Mishum Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Eloi. Rav bar Brachan says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, in the name of Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Eloi, Asido Romi Shetipol Biad Pras. In the future, Rome will fall in the hands of Pras. Kal v'chomer, and that we can understand from the following Kal v'chomer. Umam Mikdash Rishon shebenau b'nei Shem. If when it came to the first Beis HaMikdash, which was built by the children of Shem, v'achrivu Kasdim, and the Kasdim destroyed it, and Naflu Kasdim Biad Parsim, and in the end, the Kasdim fell to the hands of the Parsim. Mikdash Sheni, so the second Beis HaMikdash, shebanu Parsim, which was built by the Persians, v'achrivu Romim, and the Romans were the ones that destroyed it. Eino din sheyiplu Romim biad Parsim. Isn't it just that the Romim, the Romans, should fall in the hands of the Persians? Amar Rav, and Rav says, Asida Pras Shatipol Biad Romi. The contrary, in the future it will be Pras that will fall in the hands of Rome. Amru le Rav Kahana of Rav Asi l'Rav. So Rav Kahana and Rav Asi said to Rav, Benuye Biad Sasure are the ones who build. They're going to fall to the ones who destroy. Meaning again, like we said, the Parsiim built a Beis HaMikdash, and the Romans destroyed one, and the Romans should therefore conquer the Persians. Amar Luhu, he said to them, in yes, Gezeres HaMelechi. This is just a Gezerah from the king. It is a Gezerah from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Iko Diamri, there are those who have a different version of the response. Amar, he said, in Hunami HaKasasri Bekanishta. He said that they also are destroyers because they destroy the shuls, they destroy the Batei Kenosios. And the Gemara continues, Tanya Nami Hachi, we learned in a brisa like this as well. I see the pras shatipol biyad Romi in the future. Pras will fall in the hands of Romi. Chada desasri be'knishta. Number one, they destroy the bate knasios. Viod, and furthermore, gzeras melechu. It is a gzera from the king. Sheyiplu bonin biyad sosrin, that those who build will fall in the hands of those who destroy. Diyomer Rav Yehuda Marab, because Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav, Ein ben David ba. Ben David will not come, Mashiach will not come, Achativshad Malchus Romi Arisha, Bechol Ha'olam Kulu, until the kingdom of Rome will spread, the wicked kingdom of Rome will spread throughout the entire world. Tisha Chadashim, for 9 months. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, L'chein Yitnei Mares Yolada, Yolda v'Yeserachiv Yeshuvun al Bnei Yisrael. And the idea of this pasuk is Ades Yoleda, until the amount of a pregnancy, meaning 9 months, that's the amount that the kingdom of Rome will rule. And the Gemara continues that the two dots, Tanur Rabbanan, it was taught in a brisa, Lishkos shahayu b'mikdash, all of the chambers that were in the Beis HaMikdash, lo hayu lehen mezuzah, they did not have a mezuzah chutz mi lishkas parhedrin, except for the lishkas parhedrin shahaya ba beis dira l'kohen gadol, because that had a living quarters for the kohen gadol. Again, this was the chamber where the kohen gadol separated for 7 days before Yom Kippur. Amar Rabbi Yehuda says, v'alo kama lishkos hayu b'mikdash shahaya lehen beis dira. There were many chambers in the Beis HaMikdash that had living quarters, v'lo hayu lehen mezuzah, but they did not have a mezuzah. Ela lishkas parhedrin gezeira haisa, rather when it came to the lishkas parhedrin, it was a decree that it should have a mezuzah. The Gemara says, my time with Rabbi Yehuda, what's the reason of Rabbi Yehuda? Amar Rabba says, Kasava Rabbi Yehuda holds, Kol bayis she'eino aseh limos hachama v'limos hagashamim, any house that's not made both for the summertime and for the rainy season, eino bayis, is not considered a house, is not really obligated in mezuzah. So Abai asks the following question. But doesn't the pasuk say, there's a pasuk in Amos, it says, Vikesi beis hachoref al beis hakayetz, I will strike the winter house and the summer house. So it sounds like even a house for one season is considered to be a house. It's a question against Rabbi Yehuda. So Amar Lei, so he said to him, beis choref or beis kayetz ikri. If you have a house in the winter, a house in the summer, that's called a beis choref or a beis kayetz. But bayis stama lo ikri, it's not called a bayis, and therefore that's distinct from a bayis, which is chayev in a mezuzah. Eisvei Abai asks another question. Sukkos hachag bechag. It says that when you have a sukkah on Sukkos, Rabbi Yehuda mechayev v'chachamim potrin. Rabbi Yehuda says it's chayev. We'll see in what. And the chachamim say potter. Again, you have a sukkah that's made for Sukkos. V'tani Allah, Rabbi Yehuda mechayev be'eruv u'v'mezuzah u'v'meiser. And we learned on this Mishnah that Rabbi Yehuda says it's chayev in eruv, in mezuzah, and in meiser, meaning it's considered a bias. It's considered a house for all of these purposes. So the Gemara says, V'chi tema midrabanan. Now, if you're going to say, maybe we're talking only midrabanan. So, Bishlama Eruv mezuzah. I understand when you're talking about the halachas of Eruvin in terms of houses, when you're talking about mezuzah in terms of houses, Ikol Ameimer midrabanan. You could say that the Chiyav is just midrabanan, meaning it's only considered a bias. The Sukkos hachag bechag is only considered a bias midrabanan. Ela Meiser mi Ikol Ameimer midrabanan. But can you really say that Meiser is midrabanan? And Rashi over here explains, Rabbi Yehuda mechayev le'inyan Meiser, when we're talking about Meiser over here, the halach is, when it comes to tevel, it's not chayiv in meiser in terms of the issue that you're not allowed to eat from it as a snack until it comes to the house. Shenemar biarti hakodesh min habayis, like it says biarti hakodesh min habayis. In other words, before it gets to the house, the halach is achilas harai is okay. It's not chayiv in meiser yet at that point. So the question is, sukkos hachag bechag, is that considered a bias or not? Be'erev also in psucha lechatzer sheyesh bashar diros oseres al kulam imlo ir v'imon. You have houses that open up into a chatzer. Is this sukkah considered a house as well in terms of the halachas of Eruvin, uve mezuzah, and also in mezuzah v'yafagav dena asui limos hacham v'limos hagashamim? Again, chayiv and mezuzah, that's directly related to our discussion over here. So the problem is what the Gemara is saying, by meiser you can't say it's considered a bias midrabanan, because as the Gemara will say in the next daf, there could be a confusion between what is chayiv in meiser on a drabanan level and what's chayiv on a doraisa level. We'll continue in this discussion in the next video on Daf Yud Amud Beis.